All right, welcome to the We Up Report. This is your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and welcome to another live episode. For those who are catching the show, I want to say first and foremost, what's good to my subscribers, my day ones, the original day ones, new ones, passerbys. If you happen to pass by, this is the most hated show on the black corner of the internet. Happen to see something to make you feel some kind of way. Remember, the bottom of my show is the truth. Don't need no partner. Now, I'm not sure whether my mic is crisp and clear, like no caffeine, but today's show, we're going to talk about the difference, a good lie or bad truth, right? Well, let's sit back and we're going to get into this. Again, the difference, a good lie or bad truth.
Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Disclaimer! Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit education or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. This video was made for entertainment purposes and is transformative in nature. All right, looks like we are back. And so, again, today's show going to be on the difference, a good lie or a bad truth. Looking at what just happened recently when we're talking about the two cases that then came. One is going to be about the Emmett Till, the closing of Emmett Till from the 1955 killing of Emmett Till. Just the other day, the FBI closed the case. And then there's the Jussie Smollett, the trial that everybody pretty much heard. And I want to look at these two and let's look at, is there a good lie or a bad truth, right? What's a good lie? Somebody telling you something and they're lying to you, but it sounds good, right? What is a bad truth? Bad truth would be it's true, but you don't like it, right? So even though it's the truth, but it's bad, and based on the outcomes, I want to look at these two cases and let's just see, is there a through line? Because I looked at these because they came out recently as part of the current event. And the thing I saw when I looked at both of these cases, you have the alleged victims both saying that it happened. Let me say that again. Both of the alleged victims in the case when you talk about the murder of Emmett Till, which was Carolyn Dunham, she said it happened. When you look at Jussie Smollett, he said it happened, right? Now, accordingly, there are witnesses that testify to whether, according to what they said, right? We're going to have in these two stories that correlate, both of them are going to say things that correlate. You're going to see the witness for the Emmett Till say one thing according to what he said took place, And then there's also, when you look at the Jussie Smollett trial, there was one particular part in that trial that many people may not have noticed, that when it came through, it was reported, maybe what it was said maybe went over a lot of people's head. Then we're going to look at the fact, what are the effects of what these two cases are, right? And then there's the results, right? So let's look at, again, this being hot just the other day. So let's go ahead and give a refresher, just in case for those, some of you been under a rock some damn where, right? And didn't know what took place. So here's this, and we'll be right back. Check this out.
David, hard to believe. In January, it'll be 3 years since this ordeal began. That jury deliberating here at the Cook County Courthouse for 9 hours over the course of 2 days, delivering a split verdict just moments ago. Tonight, a jury in Chicago finding actor Jussie Smollett guilty on 5 counts of felony disorderly conduct and not guilty on 1 count of felony disorderly conduct. Prosecutors argued Smollett staged a racist and homophobic attack on himself back in January of 2019 when he told investigators he was walking home from this Subway shop and 2 men attacked him, yelling racial and homophobic slurs and putting a noose around his neck. Authorities began questioning Smollett's story when he declined to fully cooperate with the investigation. The prosecution's star witnesses, the Osundaro brothers, who testified Smollett hired them to carry out the attack. But the defense argued in court that investigators rushed to judgment, Smollett himself taking the stand, telling the jury the ordeal was not a hoax, and contradicting the Osundaro brothers, saying on the witness stand that they were trying to extort $2 million from him. But during cross-examination, then said the brothers never directly contacted him for the money. Smollett also testifying he and one of the brothers, Abimbolo Osundaro, had sexual encounters. And David Smollett could face up to 3 years in prison on those felony charges that he was convicted on, but he likely will not face any prison time because he has no criminal record. He's likely to face just probation or community service. The judge has said he can remain free on his bond until he is sentenced at a later date. David?
All right, we are back. So that was, again, for those who did not hear, a lot of us didn't have no real interest in the Jussie Smollett, but then again, we do have to kind of be observant and watch because, again, it's the system, right? It's the system. And by it being the system, we as Black people, now again, you could be other people who are hearing me from other persuasions, but we as Black people in particular, when we see the system, especially lately, we have seen things that just, we've seen some new tricks. You know, they always say that Black people are the number one people incarcerated. We go in jail, we get more tickets. So I think as Black people, we know a lot about jail. So when we see this situation here about Jussie Smollett, my thing is this. Could he really get a fair trial in this country? Ask yourself that. Could he really get a fair trial? You know how like in the Ahmaud Arbery, they try to say they could get a fair trial due to the simple fact that they said there was Jesse Jackson and then was in the courtroom. But let's look at it, Jussie Smollett, based on the fact that Dave Chappelle made this, we won't say universal, because a lot of times as people being Americans or of the United States, we believe that everybody around the world worries about what we do. So we say the world, right? But anyway, we're just going to say that what Dave Chappelle said about Jussie Smollett and made the joke, did that hurt his case? Because everybody assumes, right? Because we weren't there, so we can only assume. But based on what has been said in the trial, I wanted to show something that maybe it went under the radar. Maybe people didn't pick up on it. And then maybe you had a preconceived notion thinking that you understood what really happened. And is Jussie really saying what he said? Or was this just a fluke by a testimony by somebody who we would think didn't have no horse in the race? So let me show what I'm talking about. For those who didn't know, because again, like I say, it wasn't like a case like a lot of people. But I mean, I can only speak for myself. I was paying attention because again, I do reports, and so I had to find things that correlate and make sense of some of the stuff that I'm talking about. So let's put it like this. Just in case you didn't know, how about, let's see. All right, so what y'all see again, the difference, a good lie or a bad truth. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look into the articles that talked about this particular part of the scenario that I want to bring some attention to. Many people have their ideas about what they thought went down, but if you follow the trial, and many of us, again, didn't watch the trial, is due to the simple fact it was already tainted, right? Dave Chappelle, what he said, once he made that joke, it went kind of universal, and everybody had their preconceived notions as to what happened in the trial. Now, again, I do this as, again, report, not to take any sides, but just to show that what had been out there, that again, as it shows on your screen, a good lie or bad truth. Now, let me go ahead and show you what they had in the article, right? So it talked about how Jussie Smollett trial update. Smollett takes the stand in day 5, right? Now this came out December 6, 2021, time of 6:45 p.m. And what I want you to see is how this article is going to actually lay out, for those who may not have even seen the trial, but what you're going to get to see is what they wrote according to whoever was working and taking, dictation of what was being stated, right? So let me show you on the 5th day as the trial takes place, this is what they show. Now watch this. Now, first witness called by the defense is Anthony Moore. Moore is a security guard at the Sheraton Grand on North Water Street and was on duty the night of the alleged attack. Okay? Anthony Moore, security guard, Sheraton Grand, North Water Street. Okay? Keep all this in mind, right? So it goes on and talks about this. Moore testified that he was on duty at 2 a.m. at the Chicago Burger Company inside the hotel. He said he heard somebody coming towards him, pointed his flashlight out to see who it was. Moore testified that he saw a male figure coming towards him dressed in all black with a mask on. Moore said he pointed the flashlight right in his face, that the man came within a foot or two. Moore said he saw that the man was a white male because he could see the eyes through the man's mask. Moore then said the man ran past him saying, "It's cold, it's cold." Moore testified that he also saw a second man who was shorter and wider, someone else at a distance who appeared to be on all fours looking for something. 10:52 a.m. Under cross-examination, Moore admits he didn't think much of the incident at the time and he did not call 911. If you thought something serious or something really bad had happened, you would have done something. Prosecution asked, to which Moore responded, correct. Okay? Now, keep all this in mind, what he just stated. Now, this is a individual who's a security guard at a burger company. I don't know which restaurant. I'm not going to assume that it's Burger King or anything. But he's working as a security guard, 2 a.m. Remember this particular day. As you heard him state and what he said, is there not two individuals, and he's identifying them as, right, what he stated. Now, why would they have this individual in there testifying, stating these things? Obviously, he's a witness, and Is this supposed to be the area of where this all is taking place? Oh no. Again, remember this was done. Some of us seen this, some of us didn't see it. So then let's look at when Jussie took the testimony of his own. Well, let's say he's going to give his testimony of what he stated according to that night. Now look at this. At 5:15 p.m., he gets on the stand. I would like to think I landed a punch, but I don't know if it landed. Smollett testified Monday. Okay? He said he slipped and they tussled on the ground for up to 30 seconds. Smollett said he saw a second person who he believes kicked him on his side as that person ran away. Smollett said he assumed the person who attacked him was white because he used a racial slur and shouted it was MAGA country. Apparent reference to the then President Donald Trump's campaign slogan, Make America Great Again. Now, you take this for what you want to take it. I'm just going to report and show you the two statements based on what originally had been said when the security guard, again, who does what? He's going to make his statement, right? First witness, Anthony Moore, right? Who works at the Sheridan Grand on North Water. And what did he say, right? He said what? He testified that he heard somebody coming towards him. He being inside of the hotel at a burger's place, see somebody coming, chose the light. He identified who they were. He even said what they had on, right? That they was dressed in all black. He identified and said that he know that it was in particular who? A white man. Not just one, but there was two of them, right? And then the one thing that stands out, the one thing that stands out the most is what part, y'all? What is the one part that stands out the most? Go to that right there, right? Right? He says, Moore then said the man ran past him, saying it's cold is cold. Moore testified that he also saw a second man who was shorter and wider, someone else at a distance who appeared to be on all fours looking for something. Okay? Key part there is someone else at a distance who appeared to be on all fours. Who is that person? Did that person ever come in? Did he ever identify them? And the ironicness is 2 a.m. around the same time, two individuals that the security guard recalls, and then seeing somebody who was on the ground. Remember, it's during a vortex winter, wouldn't be on the ground for no apparent reason unless slipped and fell or possibly whatever, but you take it for what you want. All right, so we are back. So that was the report that I had did showing that there was an eyewitness that testified at the Jussie Smollett case that seemed to have slipped under the radar. I don't know whether he was talking about Jussie in particular, or this would just happen by coincidence to be something similar at the same time. Now, he did sit under trial and testify. Now, I'm not here to advocate whether it was a hoax or not. I'm just saying, as the report show, some things that people have taken And just imagine you're in a situation that you're trying to say that something happened, and people say, well, you got two dudes who said that this took place. They call it there's some relationship with them. They happen to be people who are, again, just because you might be foreign don't necessarily mean, but they are people outside. And if you understand the game here in this country, people like that can be manipulated because they'll send you back if you don't agree. Am I saying that what was said was exact in the fact? But you got to ask yourself, who was that individual talking about? And the coincidence of talking about seeing two individuals on a vortex cold night and then seeing another individual on all four. Now, was that him? Because again, like I said, the case was already tainted long before it got in there. And then when you go back and you look at this case, didn't they offer him 100? They said because of the police doing the overtime to try to resolve the case. Remember, they had put a $130,000 price for him to pay. And then they gave him a due date, I think it was like April 4th, right? Of 2000, I don't know if that was 18 when that happened, but he didn't pay that $130,000. And if you go back and you read in the articles, you'll see that said if you don't pay the $130,000, then they were going to prosecute him. So is it because he didn't pay the $130,000 is the reason why he went through what he's going through? Or was it really because a crime happened? Everybody is speculating. Everybody, again, will say, man, it was cold as shit that night. Ain't no damn way nobody was out there. And to say what he has said is because why? It was heightened. It was at this particular time when the mega was having its, making this round, making it being known, and that slogan was, had its ugliness to it. But then did he, according to what had been said, we don't know. We just know what's been presented to us. But let me show you this other part as we go on. Let me show you this real quick. Hold on. All right, this part here is going to reconfirm or actually just give you the account that which I found in some of the articles. This particular article is talking about, let me show you right here. Emmett Till. All right, that ain't the one. Sorry about that. You renamed that wrong. Sorry about that. All right, so anyway, my thing is you can take it for what you want to take it with. Why did a man get on the stand as a security guard who was there that recalled the day, the time, who he's seen, and what he's seen, right? But did you notice that in the testimony in that, how they played that part off in there? I don't know whether you paid attention, you heard that or not. But remember when he got cross-examined, the security guard got cross-examined. And how they got rid of that situation was they asked him, being a security guard, did you think that the situation was serious enough for you to call 911? He said, well, he didn't think it was that serious. And the prosecutor said, well, if you thought it was, you would have called 911. He said, yeah. So why did they say that? What was the purpose of that? Now, again, everybody going to have their own interpretation about what they want. I don't know whether it did or not, but I just thought it was strange that, as you see, I showed you, this is not my own words. These came out of the article showing on that day 5 when he went on the stand himself. But the first witness that talked that day was that security guard, which many people seem to have not even known that even took place. So I'm just saying, one way or another, does a good lie or bad truth, right? Bad truth means somebody could be telling the truth, but it's already been tainted. And because he's tainted, no one believes him. So he got a bad truth. So now somebody on the other side can make a good lie and now pass it off as the truth. But we don't know. We know that things happen with a lot of people just making, we can make, what I think it was Roosevelt said he knows some people so powerful they can make things look like a prophecy. So when you have accessibilities to, let's say, you have the media, you have the institutions, you can make anything appear to be what it is. You can also go before, magistrates and judges and be innocent, and we see that people still can be found guilty. Am I saying he's not? I don't know. I can't say for 100. I don't know if anybody can say for 100 other than the people who were there. And so my thing was, if you offered him the 130,000, what if he'd have paid the 130,000 bill? Would this not have been the case? So if you think I'm lying, go look for yourself. You think that's what it is. So anyway, you tell me, is that a good lie or a bad truth? Because what's the real significance? We know that the racial part in this country, when it comes to the black and white dynamic, and we have seen the stories after stories, especially during this particular time, you didn't want to get labeled with that, right? It's like talking about back in the days when they used to talk about when they talk about the rules, right? There were certain rules. We talking about black people to white people. You had to say yes, sir, no, ma'am, right? Don't look them in the eye. If they walking down the block and they come and you step off the sidewalk and let them come past, right? You give up your seat on the bus. If they want to sit in your seat, you get up, right? We're not allowed to congregate together, right? You know, there's a lot of the rules. So let's just say, for instance, I'm hypothetically speaking here. Let's say that what happened with Jussie Smollett. Now, again, we know that we had two individuals who say they testified and said that they did. But again, you know one thing that they could have did? Why did they show no video of him coming up out of that subway? It's this things they could have showed that could have just dispelled the whole thing. Did he ever go to Subway that night? I didn't hear nothing about that. There's no cameras for that, right? There's no cameras outside of that. Where did this incident take place? And why, when they showed you, they only show you these two mugs walking down, you know, just two mugs walking down the street? Yes, they have some affiliation. Yes, they are part of him. I'm just saying, it's easy to make the truth. The truth don't need no partner. Once you get the truth, it's going to show itself. You ain't got to embellish it. You ain't got to put no extra cut and make it fluffy. It's going to do what it do. But I think the whole case was tainted based on the simple fact that a comedian made the whole country laugh at it, that even if he was telling the truth, no one could hear the truth. And I'm not saying he told the truth. I'm just saying if he did, if he just got a bad truth and the way that it went and the things that he'd been ostracized about, just make it seem like even if he told the truth, he's going to have to swallow this one because the other side is not willing to take that. Let's just be honest about it. If, let's say, hypothetically, if it's true, if it was true, they didn't want that. They didn't want that label of that. That's why now when you see the news, they're giving high five, they're cajoling each other. Oh yeah, you see. So now what does that do for us as black people, being in the situations that now when we are in these situations, everybody gonna act like this one Jussie Smollett case is gonna allow them to do what? Act like, oh no, y'all just faking. You know, we always used to be telling stories anyway, right? You guys are always complaining, right? We're always complaining, but we're never truthful. And then when the camera got invented on the phones, and then everybody starts seeing exactly the things we were saying, it kind of quelled that down. Now they done got a trump card, because all they need is one. You got the one trump card, and it's going to be called the Jussie Smollett card. Anytime now when you hear a situation when we are dealing with, and it's a racial, because you know one thing, have y'all noticed while I'm on this? Have you ever noticed that there's supposed to be a what they call it racial, not like what they call it hate crime, right? Have you noticed that the hate crime does not apply to black folks? Right? You can't use it. Think about it. The Ahmaud Arbery, I did not hear anything about hate crime, right? I didn't hear nothing. There was no part of hate crime involved in that. It's murder, but where's the hate part in there? There was no hate in that. But it seems that some people of other persuasions, when they say they're being attacked and beat down, then they want to apply the hate crime on you. But the hate crime does not, it's like it can't be applied when you're being attacked or something being done to you. So now with the Jussie Smollett case, what's going to happen now? It's kind of like the but-for situation. You know, when they talk about the Byron Allen went and fought for the 1866 civil rights case and saying that, you know, Comcast wouldn't let him get in. And the question was but for. So but for being added means it makes it even harder for you to prove your case, because they can say, yeah, 99% of the reason why I did what I did is because you are, but the 1% says I did it because of lack thereof, you were not incompetent, or you were incompetent about your job duties and titles and so forth, right? The 1% can overtake the whole 99%. So that's what this Jussie Smollett is going to do in some sense. But see, when your pants is down and you got it all caught where you can't run and escape, then yeah, that's going to happen. But we just saying, if people start complaining and showing these situations, they're going to use this as a trump card. So I don't know. A lot of people were happy and laughing and thinking that this was child play and game, but you better look at the long implications of what this may possibly do. It's like taking away some of the validity of the cry of somebody who may be in that situation. That's what this is. It's taking this and lessening it. It's making it weaker, and we didn't need that. So we, as Black people, know we don't play with that. You don't play with race. Even though the other side, when we talk about it, don't like us talking about it, but the truth of the matter is we don't play with it because we understand the seriousness of it, its histories to it, and how it correlates with us. So again, a lot of people of our own persuasion, and everybody may have their own difference of how they look at Jussie Smollett. But according to the way they're right, he's Black, he's gay Black, which means he's in the Black category. When he played this, as they say, a hoax. If it was a hoax, then all it does is it does damage on our side of us trying to rectify a certain situation. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. You tell me what you think about it, and I'm going to move on to my next part here. Let's take a quick and come right back.
And Ms. Gordon, we heard just a moment ago from Reverend Parker and his wife also quoting that scripture, vengeance. Earlier today, the Justice Department announced that after 66 years, the investigation into Till's death has officially closed without any federal prosecution after failing to prove a key witness lied. Joining us now are two cousins of Till who met with the FBI today, Reverend Wheeler Parker Jr. and Ollie Gordon. We thank you so much for joining us tonight. We know that this was certainly a difficult day, not the outcome that you were looking for. When the FBI told you that they were going to hold a press conference and make an announcement, what did you initially think that you would hear, Ms. Gordon?
I thought that I would hear exactly what I heard, is that there was not sufficient evidence to bring new charges, and therefore the case would be closed with no new information found.
And Reverend Parker, how do you think that Mamie would respond to today's announcement?
Having listened to her previous prior speeches, she was okay. She said that they were just about out of her mind. They were not controlling her, and God took hate out of her life shortly after that happened, and she took the lemon and she made lemonade. That's the term I use. And she was busy serving. We were put here on earth to serve, help one another, and that's what she did. Of course, she hated the idea that her only son she lost, but she just wanted people to remember him in a positive way, and that's what she asked us to do, carry on the legacy and spend our time not hating. She said God took hate out of her life, and I tell people I can't afford the luxury of hate because hate destroys the hater, and we both were on the same page when it came to that. So both of us being from the same religious denomination, we are taught to pray for our enemies and those who despitefully use us, and we have the right attitude, and that's what she would have now. She would be. We were painfully, when we think about his death and how he suffered, we have pain, of course, but it's 90% of how you handle that pain.
All right. I think we back, right? So yeah, you know what they do. You know what they gotta do that, right? So you're in here trying to knock somebody out because you don't like what's being said. And you better go somewhere. That's what you need to do. All right? That's what you need to do. Because that ain't gonna help you at all. Not at all. Right? So you thought that was gonna help you doing that? That ain't gonna help you none. So let me go ahead. Give me 1 second, y'all. There we go. All right, so then you got the haters. That's what they do. You sit around you hating, but the thing is, you try to hate about the fact that we show who you are, and you act exactly who we say you are. So you come up in here, you think because you're gonna DOS me, knock me out of here, that I came right back up in here. But that's what they do. They don't like the fact that you talk about what they do, but yet you doing it. What kind of psychosis is that? When you think about it, what kind of crazy mug is you that you doing the stuff that you doing, and then all of a sudden that you don't like nobody saying nothing about you? Now you all good, Mr. Smith. I see you up in here. No, what happened is somebody sitting up in here. You know the haters that sit up in here. What they do is they don't like you talking about who they are. You do all the stuff you do, and then act like you're not a damn devil, right? You're a damn devil doing the stuff that you do, and then you get mad when somebody says something to point the finger. Take it for how you dish it. See? But I ain't gonna worry about it. It's all good, bro. But check this out. Did you get the entirety? Let me see if did you get the entirety of that? Because I can play that again. They tried to knock me out. You know they gonna do that. It's the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. I'm the only one who gonna keep always focusing on what really is what it is. You get what I'm saying? So anyway, am I loud enough? Am I clear? Give me a 1, 2 if I'm good. And if you got the entirety of that video, because I can always go back and play that again. Right? But that's what they did. They're trying to knock a brother out. So anyway, let me go ahead and give you, that was the relatives of Emmett Till doing as the closing. So let me give you the story of that and be right back. Check this out. DOJ closes Emmett Till investigation after reopening 1955 murder case for new evidence. Let me say that one more again. DOJ closes Emmett Till investigation after reopening 1955 murder case for new evidence. This story comes out of the USA Today, December the 6th, 2021, and it reads like this. The Justice Department is closing its investigation into the 1955 murder of Emmett Till, whose abduction and vicious assault united the civil rights movement, the department announced Monday. Till's surviving family members were informed of the decision in Chicago by Assistant Attorney General Christian Clark, chief of the department's Civil Rights Division. Till, a black 14-year-old, was abducted after Carol Dunham, a white shopkeeper in the town of Money, Mississippi, said the teenager had grabbed and whistled at her. The woman's then husband and another man were charged with murder, but both were acquitted by an all-white jury that year. Months after the trial, Look magazine published an account of the killing it said it had obtained from Dunham's then husband, Roy Bryant, and his brother, J.W. Millam. In the article, the men admitted beating Till and tossing him in a river near Money, weighed down with a 74-pound cotton gin fan. Decades later, FBI reinvestigates. Justice reopened investigation in 2017 after reports in a book that Dunham had recanted her account about the encounter with Till. The Justice announcement Monday did not refer to Dunham by name, but indicated that the witness denied to the FBI that she ever recanted her testimony and provided no information beyond what was uncovered during the previous federal investigation. Although lying to the FBI is a federal offense, there is insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she lied to the FBI, the Justice statement said. Although Justice said the book author represented that he had recorded 2 interviews with the woman, he provided the FBI with only 1 recording, which did not contain any recantation. In addition, although an assistant transcribed the 2 recordings, neither transcript contained the alleged recantation. Till's death rocked the country and served as a unifying spark for the civil rights movement. When the teenager's mother, Mamie Till Mobley, insisted on an open casket funeral, exposing her son's mutilated body. We back, right? Yeah, we back. All right, so with that being said, that was the report that came out with the DOJ talking about how the case was closed, right? And after thinking about 1955 to where we are today is about 66 years later. But really, you have to ask yourself again, who's playing with us? That's what you got to ask yourself. Are we being played with? Because in 1955, didn't they have a trial already? Didn't they already, there was no, I guess you could say exonerated them. Well, they never were charged, but then they didn't even try them. I mean, they tried them, but they didn't convict them, right? And so what was this whole reopening of this trial about? They said based on some information that helped them to reopen this case. Now, I want to show you this, and just to show you, just like the last story that I did with the Jussie Smollett, things had been said. Sometimes it go under the radar. Again, if it's already been in the mind's eye of everybody, it was a joke, regards to what was being said. I can't say that it was true or not. But again, a good lie or a bad truth. So let's look at, according to what you heard on this DOJ closes Emmett Till investigation, we have to go back to the time after they had not convicted them. According, there was an article written called Look magazine back in 1956, right? And there was an individual who wrote that. His name was William Bradford Huey, right? William Bradford Huey is the one who wrote that article. And that article in itself is the one that really kind of tainted as how everybody understood about what took place. Now, according, he supposed to have had documentation that shows that he talked to the 2 individuals who were supposed to be the killer. Well, they were the killers of Emmett Till, but were never convicted of it, right? And what I want to show is, again, a good lie or bad truth is, how did you reopen the case on the initial aspect of somebody saying they supposed to be credible and say they have the evidence, but then when it was time to present the evidence, if you heard in the story, or which I will go back and reiterate one again, you might didn't hear it, even though I read it to you, right? So let me go back to the Look magazine in 1956, and there's some questions I wanted to ask to, let's see, who validates this story, because we really didn't know what really happened with Emmett Till. What we recall, most of us, is we've seen the image. Remember, she had the open casket and so forth. We've seen all that, and that stained our mind. We got the story about, the whistle, but what was written versus what you're going to hear said, I just thought it was, a good correlation between what we just seen the other day and now, as to somebody who got a good lie versus somebody who might have a bad truth. So going back to that story of the Look magazine, it talks about this. Now, again, the individual who writing this is William Bradford Huey. He said about 7:30 p.m., there was 8 young Negroes, 7 boys and a girl in a 46 Ford. They stopped outside. They included the sons, grandsons, and nephew of Moses Wright, who's a preacher who was 64 years old at that time, considered to be a cropper. It said between 13 and 19 years old, 4 were native of Delta, and the others were the nephew, we call Emmett, which his nickname was Bobo. So Emmett, Bobo, Till were visiting from Chicago. Now, again, he's writing this story, right? I want you to understand. We're gonna look at this because this is the story that was given, and a lot of people use this as the validating part of what they understood. So Bobo, again, being who? Emmett Till. They said Bobo's party joined a dozen other young Negroes, including 2 other girls, in front of the store. They said the person who owned the store had built checkerboards there, and they were playing checkers, and others were wrestling and kidding about with girls. They said Bobo bragged about his white girl. Okay, Bobo being who? Emmett Till. He showed the boys a picture of a white girl in his wallet, and to the jeers of disbelief, he boasted of the success with her. Now, what I never heard, and this is no shot at the family or those of the survivors of it, was this true? Was this part ever true about this? That he showed a picture of a white girl? Did he talk about that? And did they have this conversation? I never heard anybody validate that, but this is what was written. Now, you remember how propaganda works, right? Now, I didn't hear them refute it, but I know this is what was written out there. So according to the story goes on, talking about you talking mighty big, bro, or bo. One you said, now, who is it that said this? Who is this author that's writing this newspaper or putting this article in the magazine? Who did he speak to? Who's the one giving him the information about what took place? So it goes on and says there was a pretty, now the person who said you talking mighty big, bo, one you said, there's a pretty little white woman in the store. Since you know how to handle white girls, let's see you go in there and get a date with her. You ain't chicken, are you, huh, bo? Right? And so they start taunting him. Now, who gave this author or this writer of this article this information? You know what I'm saying? Who is the one telling this information? So Bobo, according to them, said had to fire or fall back. He entered the store alone. Okay? Stopped at the candy case. She was behind the counter, Bobo in front. He asked for 2 cents worth of bubble gum. She handed to him. He squeezed her hand and said, "How about a date, baby?" She jerked away, for a person named Juanita Millam. I guess that's one of the person who's going to be involved in the killing of Emmett. And as she breaks between the counter, it says Bobo jumps in front of her, perhaps caught her by her waist. Now he said perhaps. I mean, perhaps is it certainty or is this you guessing, right? Are you guessing? The person who's saying this, is they guessing? Did it happen? Did it not happen? Right? And so, according it says, you needn't be afraid of me, baby. I've been with white girls before. Okay? Now, again, everybody has their preference. But see, a lot of people don't know these stories about these interracial datings and so forth, and how a lot of this has caused a lot of detriment over the history. There's a lot of stories that ain't even been told. But in this particular one here, because this became nationwide, I want to bring this because just like the Jussie Smollett, a good lie or a bad truth, right? So again, it goes on and it talks more. It talks about how he said at this point, a cousin runs in, grabbed Bobo and began pulling him out the store. The woman who's behind the counter, she runs. She don't go run to the back to the other person who in there. Accordingly, they said run out and get her pistol from the car, right? Her husband, her car, they got the gun in it. Now, they get Bobo, get him outside by his cousin. She getting the gun, and then they say Bobo executed the wolf whistle, which gave the case its name, right? You know, they said that he whistled at her, right? He whistled at her, okay? And that became the title of it, was the wolf whistle murder. A Negro child or a boy whistled at her and they killed him. That was the name of the article when they wrote it, right? And it was these facts that was written in this article that went throughout the nation that became, you know, the story about what happened. Now, we got to fast forward from then to now because the DOJ just closed the case, right? But what did they close this case based on, right? I see somebody wrote something there. Okay. So what did they close this case on? So let's listen to the family say some of the things they said, and then I'm going to show you as to what that article I just read to you, just in case you didn't hear it. You need to understand what really took place here. And again, the question becomes a good lie or a bad truth. Now, I wasn't sure whether everybody got that first video because they tried to knock me out the first. So, bruh, you put 1, 2. Give me 1 meaning yes, that you caught the whole video, or maybe you didn't get here in time. 2 meaning you seen it, but it cut as it knocked me out. That's what I was asking you, if you can do that for me. If not, I will play it again so you can hear it in its entirety. So it's not something I'm making up here. So again, we're going to go back to the original clip of them talking about them getting the being acknowledged about the case being closed.
Earlier today, the Justice Department announced that after 66 years, the investigation into Till's death has officially closed without any federal prosecution after failing to prove a key witness lied. Joining us now are 2 cousins of Till who met with the FBI today, Reverend Wheeler Parker Jr. and Ollie Gordon. We thank you so much for joining us tonight. We know that this was certainly a difficult day, not the outcome that you were looking for. When the FBI told you that they were going to hold a press conference and make an announcement, what did you initially think that you would hear, Ms. Gordon?
I thought that I would hear exactly what I heard, is that there was not sufficient evidence to bring new charges, and therefore the case would be closed with no new information found.
And Reverend Parker, how do you think that Mamie would respond to today's announcement?
Having listened to her previous prior speeches, she was okay. She said that they were just about out of her mind. They were not controlling her, and God took hate out of her life shortly after that happened, and she took the lemon and she made lemonade. That's the term I use. And she was busy serving. We were put here on earth to serve, help one another, and that's what she did. Of course, she hated the idea that her only son she lost, but she just wanted people to remember him in a positive way, and that's what she asked us to do, carry on the legacy and spend our time not hating. She said God took hate out of her life, and I tell people I can't afford the luxury of hate because hate destroys the hater, and we both were on the same page when it came to that. So she, both of us being from the same religious denomination, we are taught to pray for our enemies and those who despitefully use us, and we have the right attitude, and that's what she would have now. She would be, we were painfully, when we think about his death and how he suffered, we have pain, of course, but it's 90% of how you handle that pain.
All right, so you heard the families speaking, and we got to look at this because there's some stuff that he says that, again, there's always going to be family secrets. You know, media only going to get so much about it. And then there's the part that we only know based on the information that's been given to us. Now, this story done already happened again. They reopened this case based on the simple fact that supposedly there was a book written by an author named Timothy Tyson. Right? Timothy Tyson wrote a book called The Blood of Emmett Till. And in that particular book, supposedly has the statement that he said that he had a conversation with the woman. Her name was Carolyn. What was her name? Carol. What her last name is? But the individual who Emmett Till had the encounter with at the store. And she supposedly had told him, and he had accordingly recorded these conversations, right? But I want you to hear the rest of this, and then I again tell you the good lie or bad truth. So let's hear the other parts to this interview that they're talking about as we go on.
Is there pain, though, when you think that no one will answer for his death, even 66 years later?
Well, this is the way we look at it, and we real about this. She said it, and I said the same thing. God said, vengeance is mine. I know no one goes without punishment or paying for what they've done. I have reaped what I sowed, and it's not a good thing, and it's hurt, and you're gonna pay exactly. And when the guy did Emmett's funeral, that's what he said. God said, vengeance is mine. So we carry that, we go with that. We don't have to see someone suffer, and we don't get any glory, and you have to be careful as a Christian. You can't get any glory out of even people getting what they deserve. And so she had a good attitude about it, and I do too.
And Ms. Gordon, do you think that the result of the Emmett Till murder trial would have been the same if it had been held today? Obviously, decades ago, both white men were found not guilty by an all-white jury.
I think that the outcome might have been different based on the laws that we have today that we did not have in 1955. We didn't have any hate crime laws. I think it might have been different looking at the outcome of the last two cases with George Floyd and there was one other I can't recall off the top of my head, but I think it would have been different,
most recently.
Yes. Right, right. That one, and that one especially. I think had Emmett been killed back in today's time, I think that might have been a different outcome, a different verdict, because the world has moved forward and they are looking at the activities and the hate, and they see how it's destroying not a community but a country. And it's you know, each day we look and we see these crimes still being committed, even ones that we don't hear about. But I think that they're knowing that people can be brought to trial now, they can be tried, and there can be consequences for their behavior. It makes them think twice.
Hey, you sitting here watching the video. Why you sitting there? Put your hand on that like button, click it, thumbs it up, share this video, comment. You can like or dislike it. We don't care about that. And also, if you ain't over here and subscribe, what you waiting on? Get yourself on there and subscribe to get on up to WeUpReport so you can stay up, because we're going to keep you up. That's how you help keep this channel going. You can also do some monetary donations. We'll tell you about that later. But right now, wake yourself up, like, share, and comment. And don't forget, when you subscribe on that button, hit that put all notifications. You know how YouTube get down. So we back, right? And so you see in that second part of that video there, and then really get into that first part of it, because again, it's a 66-year investigation of Emmett Till murder. They're talking about a federal prosecution. The witness lied. right? No surprise or determination that she said by the FBI. How would Mamie respond today? They did this all after she had passed, right? They opened up that case after she had passed, right? So we have to ask ourselves, what was the purpose of it? What was the purpose of them reopening that case? And then having the information, as I'm going to show you, they had the information already about since 2017, 2018. Why did they wait till now to come out, right? So you see that, as in that clip you just seen there, they talk, I forgot her name who's doing the interview, but she says they're pained that no one will answer for his death, right? Well, they already gone through that, right? Think about that. They already have gone through that because when they originally tried the two individuals for what took place, an all-white jury said no, right? And you can't retry them again, right? Isn't that how a murder case is? If you beat the murder rap, like let's say a lot of people talk about the O.J. Simpson case, then he can come out talking about if I did it, because if he did it now, you can't retry him, right? So according to this individual that ended up doing this article had spoke to them and they gave him his testimony. And if you want to read it, go look in the Look magazine. It's kind of long. I put some of it, but not in this particular video. But you'll see they go through details and they say a lot of things. But my thing is, for this family, I want to ask is that story that they wrote, is it valid? Because he said something that I thought that stood out a little bit. Did y'all hear too when he said, he talked about God said vengeance is mine. And then he said something to the fact like, I've reaped for what I sowed. We're talking about Emmett Till, right? Why is he saying he reaped for what he sowed? Now, we all, as individuals in our lives, have done things that we may not be proud of, may be ashamed of, right? We all reap some things that, measure the difference of, the severity of it. But we've done things. But in the conversation that we're talking about, Emmett Till, I didn't understand why he would say he reaped for some things he sowed, right? I don't know. Now, remember, I read you what was in the article, and it talked about, remember, that they were outside the store, and there was their entourage, and then there was some that was already there, and they got to talk about girls. Then Emmett goes and gets the picture, talks about how he already been with white girls, and then one of them says, well, there's a pretty white girl inside in there, right? Right? There's one in there. So somewhere in this entourage, but they don't specify who this is. And again, like I said, I don't know who this author is who wrote this and to validate this story. But if he's writing this and he's just making this damn story up, that's one thing they should have came out and, invalidate that whole article. But based on what he wrote, we have to say, okay, then who was the individual that told Emmett to go into that store and see if he could pull this white woman, right? So again, I'm not here to make no judgment. I just thought it was a little strange when I heard him say that, like, okay, he was there. He's the cousin. He's a few years older. So I think he was 16 at the time, and I think Emmett was 14. So he's like 2 years older. So I just thought that was a little strange that he said, and I seen the eyes of the relative next to him. So I'm just wondering what he reaped. Because again, 1955, right? Even in 2021, we can still see some of these situations where somebody claim rape and then somebody go through the process and then kind of find out that they lied, but they still do it. So anyway, on that part there. But going on more with this, they're not surprised at the outcome because they already knew. But the thing that opened this case was an individual who was an author who wrote the book, Timothy Tyson. But in that article that I read to you, it said that according to what he gave, he supposedly had 2 recordings, but he only gave one and then the transcript. Let me say that again. Originally, when he did the 2-day interview with the woman, they got the information that he put in the book. He recorded it. But when he gave the information to the FBI, according to that article that I read to you, it said he only get presented one, and he gave an assisted transcript that did not have any of the recantation in it. Now, the question you got to ask yourself is this. When you record, it's in its entirety unless you can determine that the tape has been edited, right? A transcript is just somebody transcribing what they supposedly heard. Where did they get in the transcript from? To transcribe, unless they were there present. Get what I'm saying? So a good lie or a bad truth. So again, I don't know if anybody who's watching my show, I just did the show the other day talking about the Groveland Four and how they just pardoned posthumously and gave them the posthumously pardon for them being accused. And now they're gone, but they're pardoning their name, and the individual who is now about 87 years old, there's no prosecution for that. There's no prosecution for that. It's just charge it to the game. And when you look at the Emmett Till situation, isn't it about what they're saying? Charge it to the game. Because how is it that an author who said and can write in a book who's made money off of it, but when it came to presenting it, did he get on code? Did he get on code and say, we're not going to do this? But we know that these people, when they're dealing with the Holocaust, will wheelchair somebody's ass up in that damn courtroom with a damn oxygen mask. You get what I'm saying? But like I said earlier, when it comes to hate crimes, when they're dealing with us, it does not apply. Does not apply. And so you reopen this based on a lie that he said is a lie. But was it a lie? You have to determine that. You have to understand, was that really a lie? Because the article said what it said. He said what he said initially. But listen what she says at the end of this interview, because there's two more to play. I don't want the rest of that, but just listen what she says at the end of this. Listen to this. Hold on.
Timothy Tyson, the author of the book, tells ABC News that he stands by his account, saying that, quote, only days after Emmett Till's body was found, Carolyn Bryant Donham told her own attorney her story, but did not mention any physical contact, which she described in court as more or less a rape attempt. Tyson says that she told him that part's not true. ABC News also spoke to a family member of Carolyn Bryant Donham who told ABC News she is, quote, glad it's done.
All right. Right? He still stands on his word. What word? What word is you standing on? How could he stand on something that he said that, guess what? I can't substantiate what was said. But I wrote in the book, but you heard her at the end just say what? He stands on what he said. So, good lie or bad truth? You get what I'm saying? Is it a good lie or bad truth? Look like they trying to, let's say, hold on. Look like they trying to, they probably gonna make it with this, oh no, okay, that's something else. Okay. I thought they was knocking me out. So, you know, how can somebody make a book? So that means you make money off the death of Emmett Till. Then they open up a federal case based on the information. But what they wrote in the article that I read to you said that it was insufficient evidence based on the simple fact that what happened? Looks like my man went on code. He wasn't finna go against his own. So the lesson here is we as black folks gotta learn the same thing. Okay, it was funny what Dave Chappelle said about Jussie Smollett. It was funny, but that don't mean that it didn't take place. We try to act sometimes like we forget where we at, what our history has been. And so anything to make it funny and shy it off, we so quick to run with that. And I'm not saying whether it did or not. I'm just saying about being on code. Because look what this author did when it came to how he could have implicated and got this woman to be charged after all these years But he was on code enough to say, I'm not going to present this because why? It's going to implicate her. But at the end, you heard her say, oh, he stands on what he originally said. When I told you that he wrote, you weren't able to see it because, well, you was able to see it. Wait a minute. Yeah, no, I read it to you, so you didn't get to see it. But I could have showed you that, but I didn't do it the way I normally would do it. But so the thing is, where do we learn to be the same way? Are we so, again, when you look at that situation with the Smollett and people being, not naturally born in the country, they will threaten your citizenship if you don't play the game. Because like I said, if you go looking, you find in them articles, you'll see that people that paid the $130,000, would there have even been a case? But since he didn't pay, they gave him a deadline. He reneged on it. They said they was going to go ahead and prosecute him. But he stood to this day, and said it was no hoax. Now, a lot of people, again, everybody got their belief. I'm not saying whether he did or didn't. I'm just saying, shouldn't we understand the law implication? Because again, this is going to be the card now that's going to be used that every time we say something, they're going to try to trump it and say, guess what? You guys, it's just like the Jussie Smollett. You're lying. Huh? That's damage to us. Just like why they came at the timing of the Emmett kill, right? Telling us basically charge it to the game. We stand on what we said originally, and that's it. Ain't gonna be no more. Like sometimes back in the day, the parents say, I already said what I said. Ain't gotta make no speech. It is what it is. And so when do we as a people, as a group, start learning to do the same thing? And so willy-nilly to be always take the low end just because maybe it didn't sound right. It's a bad truth. It was a cold vortex that night, a Subway sandwich. They said mega, all that stuff, right? But we act like we don't know where we at. We keep forgetting where we at. We keep forgetting that things have been set in place for so damn long that now that they're talking about reparations. But I'm going to do a show coming up, going to show you about some things that they talked about doing these polls and what this country keeps saying, and yet everybody keep acting like we good with you, but they don't want to really give you no compensation. They want to put it in the way so they just keep prolonging the game, give you the long ass death, but they don't really want to repair you, and yet everybody come and benefit off of what our ancestors done gave to this land. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I appreciate all y'all being in here listening. I'm pretty sure there's some, who is going to be in here. And again, a good lie or a bad truth. The good lie was, well, I have the information that implicates somebody, but I'm not going to present it. A bad truth was maybe it happened because there was an individual who said something he seemed similar to the situation that this individual was speaking, but for some odd reason it went under the radar. So you go back and you go look, because maybe you was prejudging something and not understand what really it was. Because you got to ask yourself, would he come in that courtroom and why did he have to do a testimony and what was he testifying about? Well, you tell me. Again, this is the most hated show on the black corner of the internet. I'm your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds. And just in case you have not been over here, you can, like, share, subscribe, do all that other good stuff. We try to come on as much as possible when we find some things that's worthy of talking. So until my next show, y'all, to the next show.